Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobby coming at you with some extra old world content. So the other night on my Twitch stream, I was doing a little bit of building and I was working on some of the normal thralls from the new Mechanicum Battle Group, and all I can say is I was having a terrible time.
That box set is amazing, all the models in it are 10 out of 10 stunning, but my god, is it a chore. To build each and every model takes such a long time. You're constantly referring back to the instructions, the tiny pipe has to go here, oh that's the token on the right foot, not the left foot. It's ridiculous. Like I built one of the tech thrall dudes, the small infantry guys, and it took about 25 minutes, half an hour. There's 20 of them in that box set. So it's going to take me 10 hours to build the infantry from that box set. I think it's ridiculous. And
like while I was talking on stream and chatting to people, I was like, I don't want to sit here kind of fumbling over these instructions and fighting over bits and pieces, so I'm just going to find something a little bit more fun to do. And I reached for one of the new old kits that was recently finally arrived in the post. I ordered when the Orc and Goblins for the old world were released, which was the Marauder Giant. This is an absolutely beautiful, ugly, old, difficult kit. And I just started cleaning that up and putting it together. And I tell you what, I had a whale of a time. This beautiful model came together out of 6 or 7 pieces. And then the next day I was just so inspired that I decided to paint it and make it a video. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys here today. But that is genuinely something that I am struggling with in the hobby these days, is why is everything so complicated? Why in God's name does it take hours and hours and hours and hours to build miniatures? Like, if you want to build a Night Titan, it's going to take you all day. Like, who has the time? I don't. So yeah, I'd love to look, guys, what your experiences are with building miniatures these days. Because back in the day, people used to complain about building miniatures, and I used to tell them that it was one of the parts of the hobby that I enjoyed the most. You throw me a tactical squad, a pair of clippers and glue, and I could sit there and clean them up and chat, and you could be a social event because you'd cut out all the legs, glue it onto bases, and then work on all the torsos and then the arms. It all came together so smoothly and so much fun. It was great. But now I'm literally fighting against the sprues and the instructions to try and find the right parts to go on the right exact model every time. So yeah, parts of this hobby are definitely getting more complicated than they need to be. I feel like building is more complicated, painting is more complicated, and gaming is more complicated than ever. Why are there more barriers to playing this game than ever before? I don't get it. Okay, rant kind of over. I'm sure I'll go over it a little bit more while we're making this video, but yeah, we're going to be doing a Marauder Giant. It's an epic old kit, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys in this video. So this is the Marauder Giant. Now, when you look up this miniature online, its original release date, and the source of its original release date, was White Dwarf 124. It was released in 1990. Now, to put that into perspective, I was born in 1988. I was 2 when this miniature was put on shelves for the first time. Like I said, my entire life inside the hobby, this was not available. But of course we had seen it online and stuff like that. People had them in their old armies. And it was always a beautiful giant. So with the re-release of the old world, they are starting to bring some of these beautiful miniatures back from the dead and giving us the opportunity to purchase them and add them into our collections. Now, I am at heart a collector. I love playing the game. I love painting miniatures, but at the end of the day, like, my end goal is walk into a giant room with cabinets everywhere, filled to the brim with beautiful collected miniatures. No gaps, no nothing, just there's everything. I want it to feel like Warhammer World when I walk around my studio at some stage. I know that is a lofty goal to have, but what is wrong with having lofty goals? So I, for one, will be purchasing every single one of these new miniatures that gets re-released. And to put this in context, I know Games Workshop send me out kits, but they sent me out new kits. They do not send out any of these miniatures for free. These are all purchased off my own volition. They are mine, and I just will not let any of them. So for instance, with this one, I got the River Trolls, I got the Marauder Giant, and I got that really old Wyvern that I'm really excited to get painted up and to feel on a tabletop. A miniature that was released when I was 2, and in a short period of time, I'm going to be pushing around a tabletop and rolling dice in anger for it to be used. I just think that is so cool. The experience of building and painting this thing is also it's a joy. It's really fun. You may have noticed that the background of the video has changed here. What I did was, as I grabbed, it's such a top heavy piece, I was really afraid it was going to kind of tumble out of my hands a little bit and I might break it because it is a metal miniature. So I put some case foam underneath it, so if it fell on something soft. But it has like these metallic flecks in it. It kept grabbing the attention and the light of the camera. So that backdrop will disappear again in a moment. It was a test. It didn't work. So just try and ignore it as best you can. Now, like I said in the intro of this video, I am really struggling these days with especially the construction of miniatures. Like, I said I pride my channel on helping people get miniatures on the tabletop quickly, easily, and effectively. So you can buy any miniature that you want, and your fear should not be there. You shouldn't be afraid to buy a miniature. There should be a video available for you to use simple techniques to get that model painted up, looking well, and put on the tabletop. That is my entire remit. And so far we're 700 videos in giving you that kind of tips and tricks and helping people do it. I've gotten so many comments that people are that they've helped them and that they've gotten miniatures done or gotten armies done. So I feel really good at heart that the channel is working and it is doing what I need it to do. I cannot speed up the process of assembling miniatures. I cannot make assembling miniatures more fun. It's just a chore now. I would love to know if anybody out there enjoys building modern day Games Workshop miniatures. There's definitely pieces out there which I just do not understand the need to have them as separate parts. Now, like I said, I worked for Games Workshop for 15 years. I have been in rooms with the designers, with the guys that create these miniatures, and I've got to ask them questions about this kind of thing before. The examples that I asked was, the Tomb Spider for the Necrons has little tiny baby scarabs on the inside of the chassis. So you can only see it before you've finished assembling it. Once it's closed up, they're gone. The same thing, one of the new Orc buggies has trash, old energy drink cans crumpled up in the bottom floor of the thing, as if, the driver has been, glugging Red Bull and then throwing the cans down. Once the kit is assembled fully, you cannot see these details. So I asked the question, why do these details exist? His answer was, well, we're trying to give something back to people who are assembling the miniatures. We want them to enjoy the process as much as painting, as much as playing. The building of it should be part of the hobby and should be something that you enjoy. That's why those details exist. And while that's a nice sentiment, I really don't think there's a lot of people out there who build miniatures or collect Warhammer for the sake of assembling the miniatures. I've said it before, I would gladly give up 10, 15, 20% of the detail on a miniature to make it a lot easier to build. When you look at every kit and every sprue slides out of a box and you see, you get the new Mechanicum stuff really does spring to mind. You talk about the Thalax cohort, the 5 robots you need to build out of that set. It's literally hundreds of parts. Every time I slide a kit like that out of the box, my brain just screams, slide it back in and just put it away. You do not want to spend hours and hours with these fiddly little bits trying to figure out which way around they go, how they go together, and then you've finished one and then you've got 4 more to build. There's definitely a mental block with that concept as well. Because back in the day when you used to build a squad of 10 tactical marines, the job was building 10 tactical marines. And I gave an example at the start, you cut out 10 sets of legs, you cleaned them up, you glued those 10 sets of legs to bases. Cool. Then you cut out the front and back of the torsos 10 times. You clean those up. So the entire process of building was one task. When you finished, you had 10 Marines done. Beautiful. Nowadays, every single Marine is a different set of parts. Those legs don't work with that torso, don't work with those arms, don't work with that head. They're all belonging to a specific miniature. That means you have to assemble a miniature to its completion. You get that little bump of serotonin. Well done, you did that. Cool, now do it again and again and again and again and again. And that just, for me, drags me down. It makes me not want to do it. And like I said, I'm struggling. I wish people would kind of had a switch I could flick in my brain, turn off, and just get the things done. The first video I did for the new Mechanicum box set was indeed one of the awesome new robots, and I loved painting it. The result that I got from painting that, I am so proud of. That is the thing that I've painted in the last couple of weeks that I'm definitely the most proud of. I think it turned out awesome. It made me think about maybe if I do a heresy campaign, I'll be the Mechanicum in my group. I don't think anybody else wants to be. I'll be the Mechanicum. I can paint them. If the army's going to look like that, I'll do it. But I can't bring myself to build the second one of that robot. I watched the new Bad Boys movie and built that first one, and it took pretty much the entire movie to build one robot. It's killing me. I know it's a bit ranty. I do apologize if this is annoying a lot of people. It's just been something that's been weighing on my mind a lot over the last couple of years, especially the fact that I'm trying to make content around as many of the new Games Workshop kits as humanly possible to help you guys out. I mean that every week a pile of my hobby comes in, and it's not the painting of it that's getting me. It's not editing the videos that's getting me, that's slowing down my progress. It's the getting all the miniatures that I need to make videos built in time in a week. Like I said, please do let me know in the comments below if you guys have any experience in this. Do you feel the same way? Does building slow you down? Does it kill your joy? Does it stop projects in a track? Do you look at an army and think, man, I'd love to collect that, but by God, I'm not building all those miniatures? I'd love to know what your thoughts are. And then we come to something like this. This model is 1990, 34 years old. Came in what, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 parts. You got 10 parts to make this giant, and it's fairly straightforward parts. You don't have to look at any instructions. It's like legs, arms, hands, head. You know where they're supposed to go. You get them glued together, and then I just get to paint them. Obviously, it's not as detailed as modern day kits. The hair is a little strange. The beard isn't sculpted amazingly, but it works. When it's finished painted, I'm still super proud of this miniature. I'm super happy to have it in my collection. And yeah, I feel just as good finishing this as I do a modern day beautiful model. This giant has also been affectionately renamed as Grumio. Salve. If anybody knows why I've called him Grumio, then yeah, please do let me know in the comments below as well. It's a little bit of an internal joke here, but the haircut definitely helped me decide on that name. As you can see, I'm going through the process of using the Too Thin Coats range to layer the model up, and I feel like I get to paint in a bunch of detail with that, make this model pop. And that's the enjoyment that I'm having a lot with Old World. I'm taking a step back to those times when I didn't need to constantly worry about all the different bits and pieces for building. I got to throw armies together, get to slap some paint on them, I get to rank them all up, and I get to play some awesome games with awesome miniatures. Like I said, these miniatures are hand sculpted. They're from a bygone era. Like, that face is awesome looking. Those teeth are perfect. Sunken eyes. Cheekbones, gnarly hands, all those nails are all hand sculpted. Like that wooden branch that he's swinging about the place. Obviously, I've tried to add in as much texture as possible with that skin. And now, of course, we're going to move on to those two tones for color. So we have orange and black. For anyone who has been watching a bunch of my videos knows that this is the color scheme for my Dogs of War army. And this guy is the bane of my Dogs of War force. He has come in contact with a regiment of them before and unfortunately slayed them all. This is where his fabric was retrieved from to make his tunic. And now my Dogs of War force sees this as an affront to their honor, and they hunt this thing all across the Old World trying to kill it. It is now obviously teamed up with an orc army, so their task has become even more difficult. But that is the battle that will rage soon, is my orcs versus my Dogs of War army, with the sole purpose being to destroy this giant and claim their honor back. Now, as you can see, adding the Too Thin Coats range of paints to that using the triad of colors. Obviously, I've been skipping the first coat from those triads and replacing that with contrast to speed up painting. But then I just use the mid-tone and the highlight to highlight over those contrast colors. It makes everything pop and it looks really nice, and I really enjoyed the process. So every now and again I will just decide on a project to use it for, and then I'll just go for it. And as you can see, the detail really does start to scream out on the miniature. That was just a mid-tone. Once we add in the orange flare, you can see how the tunic really does come to life. Not bad for a 34-year-old model, if I do say so myself. The skin is looking clean. The orange is nearly finished highlighted. We're going to do the black, the browns, some tan color on his hair and the club, and then some rust on his chainmail and some silver on the gold bits. And that really is all we will do for this Grumio. And yeah, it's funny how the entire process of getting this model done just brought me nothing but joy. Building it was not hard. Back in the day, we used to have really weak super glue. Old Games Workshop super glue was just awful. It was like water. Now you just use, you know, Loctite or whatever. I just use cheap deal super glue, but it's like a gel super glue. So there's no pinning putting this metal beast together. There's no green stuff. It's just super glue and it's held strong. So putting it together was absolutely no problem at all. Getting it painted up was just a really enjoyable experience. And with its completion, all I'm looking forward to moving on is getting it on the tabletop and rolling some dice. So the process of getting this miniature to the idea of having it playing in some games, every step is a joy. And I think that's definitely something that I think Games Workshop needs to take a look at and work backwards from. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is the end goal of somebody who wants to do Warhammer? Their enjoyment, okay? How do we ensure that they enjoy the process of doing Warhammer? Okay, let's start at the beginning. The purchasing of Warhammer, let's look at that. The assembling of Warhammer, let's look at that. The painting of Warhammer, the playing with Warhammer. Even things like I don't think they take into consideration is the idea of transporting miniatures. I have a video planned for that coming up really soon, but I mean, think about it. Think about all the crazy fragile miniatures that Games Workshop releases today. And they have no decent option for transporting these miniatures from your home to your gaming club or to a Games Workshop store, to Warhammer World or whatever. Absolutely no thought goes into that. I'm not saying they should limit the design of miniatures to fit into cases. I never advocate for that whatsoever. I just feel like they should be looking at that as a concept, getting miniatures transported safely. And if Games Workshop try to make every aspect of the hobby something that is really enjoyable, then surely more people will stick with it, more people will join into it, more people will enjoy the process, and obviously it will just do better, right? I think sometimes they definitely design things like it's like parts of Games Workshop doesn't talk to each other. I've often talked about that with the contrast paints. They brought out this range of paints, contrast paints, which, as you know by my channel, I am obsessed with. It makes life and painting so much easier. And then every painting guide that Games Workshop has put out since then, they don't use contrast. To me, that is just baffling. I don't understand that whatsoever. Why would you release this product that's going to help people and then not show it off constantly? I cannot get my head around that as a concept. And then when we talk about rules is just always getting bloated. They're always adding more and more and more in, which is obviously making games more and more complicated, which is, for me, definitely decreasing the level of fun with playing it. So obviously that's driving more people away. It's a bizarre world that we live in these days with Warhammer, where they think to have more fun with something, everything has to get more complicated. Simpler times. To me, the golden era of Warhammer for me was 4th edition 40k. I started in 3rd, came into my own in 4th. I think to this day I still have played more games of 4th edition Warhammer 40,000 than anything else. Building an army was easy, collecting an army was easy, and playing games was easy. 1500 points was the kind of standard point size that we played back then. The rules were easy, the missions were easy. It was just so much fun. You didn't have to think constantly, check the rule book back and forth and back and forth. Don't worry about things like stratagems or a million victory points they had to worry about. Easy times for better hobby. Should put that on a sticker or something. Here I am working on all those awesome nails, both on his toes and on his hands. Making sure they get the highlight they deserve, so they stand out a little bit. You saw what I did with the metallic parts on his chainmail. They got hit with wildwood contrast originally. And then I just stippled some orange all over them and gave it a light dry brush of silver, which just made it look like a perfect, like, rusty gauntlet. And while I was dry brushing that silver, I dry brushed over all the gold bits with it as well to make it all pop. Things like cuirass leather. And obviously we'll jump up to a brighter brown as well for the leather straps around his waist, his belt obviously, and then the strap going around his shoulders. Now, there are 2 sections of this miniature which are not glued on. You can see a little hole next to his hip. A barrel goes on there as if he's carrying around a big barrel of Bugman's 6X beer. I just need to get that painted up and glued on. And then there is a knife that goes in on his hip next to his right hand. I couldn't get that to sit the way I wanted to. In fact, even the barrel didn't really sit the way I liked it. It was like disrupting the silhouette of the model for me. I really like, the 2 arms, 2 legs, the torso, everything is kind of clearly visible. And I don't think those parts missing are going to detract from the miniature at all. Like I said, you can see the little hole on his left hip there that the barrel plugs into. And that's why he has the rope up over his shoulder. That's holding the barrel on. So that looks a little bit peculiar. But I am not sure whether I'm going to kind of paint those parts up and glue them on. Where I'm going to leave Grumio as he is, as this perfect being. Here we have our finished Marauder Giant. A kit that is, like I said, 34 euros old. And like I said previously, I enjoyed absolutely every step of it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do let me know in the comments below. I can also take a little bit of criticism. So if you guys think that I was a little bit moany in this video, sometimes I did feel it, but I genuinely am having a little bit of a struggly time with assembling complicated miniatures these days. And maybe I just need to vent a little bit, but yeah, let me know either way in the comments below. Make sure you do the usual things like comment, subscribe. If you want to check out the Patreon, it is linked down in the description below as well. That is the best way to support and help this channel grow. There's a bunch of benefits in there for being a member as well. So please do check that out. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Okay guys, here is my Marauder Giant. I am in love. I'm so pleased to finally own this miniature. It has been not available since I think before I was in the hobby, to be honest with you. So to have it finally, not have to pay eBay prices and finally get my hands on one, have it already built and painted and ready to serve alongside the orc army that I'm going to be building in the next couple of weeks, just makes me really, really happy. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I would love to know your thoughts on the hobby as its current state down below. I don't mean to just start as like huge negative conversation. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just wondering, do people feel the same way as I do? Do you find building as a chore? Models are too detailed. We've had that conversation a bunch of times before with other creators that, you know, they don't need to have jangles and little bells and whistles all over all the miniatures, which is obviously causing painting time to increase exponentially. And then obviously the rule book is just so bloated and so full that it takes a long time to learn the rules and play and all that kind of stuff, which is a real problem because I'm a Games Workshop fanboy. I'm a Warhammer fanboy. I will be for the rest of my life. I will never stop playing it. So it getting harder and harder is a real problem for me. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you do the 3 things that you should do for all creators if you enjoy their content, if you watch their video. Like the video. If you have anything to say or throw in, make sure you do throw it in the comments below. Don't feel like your opinion doesn't matter or whatever like that. All the comments really do help push out the algorithm and make more people see the video. If you really enjoyed the content and you want to see more, subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. It makes a huge difference to us. All right, guys, thank you so much for sticking around at the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.